Starry Night, BOM, month number 2 coming at you. We just finished month number 1. It was 2 blocks right here. Now we're going to move on and do month number 2. We're going to get some more blocks. Last month, you were maybe a beginner and you cut your pieces one segment at a time. What you're going to learn this month, we're going to do it totally different. I want you to learn a different method. We're going to do the fast way, what I think is the fast way. We're going to cut all our fabric. We're not even going to worry about the sewing machine. We are just going to cut fabric, cut the pieces, pin things together. You're going to see how cool this is. You're going to be singing the alphabet for a while in your head, but we're going to do it that way. And then we're going to just sew everything all at the same time. So cut, 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 and then sew, sew, sew. You're going to love month number 2. And then you're going to leave me a comment. You're going to let me know. Do you like to do it one piece at a time? Or do you like all cut and all my pieces are, see, here's one of our segments right here with all the pieces pinned to it, which I'm going to show you how to do. I like to say this one has 10 pieces in it. So this is probably our most tricky piece that we've got in month number 2. I like to start there. So I will start with the one that has the most pieces, and then I'm going to work my way back so that by the time I get to the last thing that I'm sewing, it has only 2 pieces. We're in block of the month, it's got 2 pieces. And you feel like you're running downhill, like fast. And all of a sudden it's going to come together and we're going to have block number 2 done. And here we begin a faster start to month 2. You will have noticed some fabric colors we have seen before, and some are new. All of them need to have a good starch and a press. And then I also spliced the cut guides in half so it's one color per page, and I simply merged them, if they existed already, into the sleeves that we already had, and if they were new, I created new sleeves for the new colors. I'm going to use the previous month fabric, the scraps, up first, simply because I don't want to waste anything. And you'll see how much fabric Legit Kit actually gives you for this project. You're going to have a lot left over, or enough left over so that if you make a mistake, you're going to be just fine. Next, I made copies already of our FPP pattern pieces, the newsprint. Those are our emergency pieces just in case we make a mistake and need to make a new piece. I've also laid out 2 post-it notes with the letter A and Z to remind us and illustrate the alphabet and how important that's going to be as we lay these out. Just like before, we're going to cut out our pattern pieces, but we're not going to make a big giant pile. We're going to cut them, and we're not going to sew them one at a time. We're going to cut one. We're going to look at this pattern piece right here, B1A, and we are going to find which fabric code comes first in the alphabet, AC. And now we're going to start this little conga line. That first fabric is AC. We're going to cut the next pattern piece. And as we cut this next pattern piece, we're looking at it to see which letter of the alphabet, which color code of the fabric is going to come first in the alphabet. So as we look at B1B, I see a DZ, I see a DQ, I see a DZ, there's some I's. DQ comes first in the alphabet. We're going to add this one to our conga line of pattern pieces. What we're doing, and we're using the alphabet to do it, is creating a row of pieces that we need to cut, and we're looking at these segments to find which cut comes first in the alphabet. I am ignoring the cut numbers. I am simply looking at the alphabet. So we are going to cut these in order of the fabric color code that comes first. Here's DE for B1C, and DE comes before DQ. So we're just rearranging our little conga line. We have 5 pages more to cut, and we're just going to keep on cutting. And as we keep cutting, we're looking for that first color code of the alphabet that comes first, because that's the first color we are going to cut. This is going to create a line of pieces in order of their first alphabetized fabric to cut. And we're going to cut them all in order. So FT on B1D here is going to come first, which comes after D. So we're going to add that to our line. Our next piece, B1E here, FI looks like it might be our first one, which comes before FT. So we're going to put that there. So we're going to go in that row, in that order, and we're going to go on to the next piece. This will become much easier as you continue to do this, and it'll start to make sense when you see what happens as we start to cut more. We're just going to keep on going, cutting and organizing by alphabet. This one here, FI comes before VR, so we're going to put this in a pile with our other FI. B to L, we've got an IA, a TQ, an NR. You can see that's going to go in that direction. We're going to keep on cutting. The next piece here, we have another AC on there, so that's going to go in the very beginning of our little conga line. If you need to add more post-it notes that help you find where all the pieces go, just as a guide, like an illustration, knock yourself out with more post-it notes. Now I'm going to speed this up a little bit here, but I think you get the idea. Keep cutting these pieces. Look for that first letter of the alphabet in the codes, not the numbers. I've moved to a cutting table just to make this part a little bit easier. And we're just going to review real quick. What we've done is we've put all of our pieces in order of the alphabet by what comes first in that piece. So just to review again, on this piece, B1C, there are 5 pieces of fabric that are going to go in here, but the code letter on this piece that is going to come up first in the alphabet is DE. So we have our pieces, which are segments, all lined up in order of the alphabet by what's going to come up first. And the first one we're going to do are AC. And so I'm going to pull up from my binder what I had for AC. I only need month 2 because we've already done month 1. And I'm going to pull out the fabric for both of those months. There's no reason for me not to use this first. I might as well use up this piece first because it's the same color and then go on to this new piece. So we're going to leave that one over here for now, and we're going to work with what we have already been cutting into. And for AC, we should have 3 pieces to cut AC. So when I go to the pile that we made for AC, I actually have these 3 pieces. I have B1A, which is this one right here. I have B2A, which is right here, and then I have B2H. So to make this go fast or faster than the previous method, the first thing I want to look at on here is there anything that's kind of a bigger piece? And this one right here, number one, B1A, this one for code AC, which is right here, this piece right here is bigger than the cuts we're going to make out of the other 2. So we might just start with that first. We're going to start right here. Then the other thing that I grab is a couple of different kinds of pens. I don't write on my fabric what the code is because I will pin it to the piece in an order that makes sense for me. And until you get going and doing that, I would suggest you get yourself a couple of different fabric marking pens, and you're going to end up writing really small what will be the seam allowance of your fabric cut. So let's just pretend this is a fabric cut. We know this is fabric AC. So until you kind of get used to recognizing that and knowing where it is when you put it on this piece, you might go right into this little part here that you know is going to be in the seam allowance right here. And I just put a little AC so I know what color that is. You see that there? AC. Now, none of this is new for you. You've already cut quite a few pieces, and I'm going to continue to cut the AC fabric. The trick for you will be what happens after I cut the first AC fabric. So I'm going to cut this first AC fabric, and then I'm going to end up pinning it to this pattern piece. And I'm going to fast forward here until we get to that so you can see what happens next. Now don't forget, this is very important, that you mark off with a nice felt pen there that you cut this one. You cut AC, And you're also going to mark it off the cut guide so you have a list that identifies that you've finished it. Now I'm going to pin him to this paper, and I'm going to look at this and I'm going to find what is the next letter in the alphabet. Which one would come next? That would be C, comes before anything else, CY. And so now we're going to go back to that row. Where does this guy go? Well, CY comes before CH because we have a pile here. I think it's CH. Yeah, that's CH. So the next one in line is DE, so it's going to fall right between those two. So now we put it here. That segment's ready for its second cut. We leave that one alone. So we're going to continue with all of AC, and we're going to get all of AC cut. We have this extra fabric. We have a lot of AC, so if we make a mistake later, we're completely covered. We have a lot of fabric. If we make a mistake, we can just cut a whole new piece. So we finished AC, and we're going to move on to the second color, which is AD. It looks like we had AD last month, so we're just going to look at how much fabric is left over from last month and what we need to cut this month, and maybe we'll be able to use last month fabric, still saving us a nice big piece for just in case we make a mistake later on in the quilting process. We have a piece that we can cut from. There's only one piece that has to come out of AD, and I actually think it's going to be a piece that will fit on last month's piece of fabric, so let's just use that one. So here's B2K. We just cut AD. Now we have to figure out where this goes next in our conga line, right? So it looks like DN comes before DZ. So we're going to put this in DN. Now, what's next? Next in our conga line, we have CH. So we're going to see what CH has in store for us. CH right here, bada boom, just like that. We have two pieces, one piece of fabric, two to cut, two to cut. So let's cut those. So here's this one. That's CH. So we've got CH cut. We take our pen, we mark off that we've done CH, and that was this guy here. Next color that we're going, code that we're going to need is going to be this DQ. Too bad it's not Dairy Queen. All right. And now I know you're starting to get this. We'll finish all the cuts for CH. We pin each cut to the segment. Then we move that segment to the next piece in line by the alphabet, not by the cut numbers, but by the alphabet on the segment. And then we finish each color one at a time, all the pieces in that color. And this way we just keep moving the pieces along in the alphabet until we finally get to the end or the last color necessary for this particular month. And now I'm really going to fast forward through cutting most of these pieces. I know you can cut your pieces. You did it last month. You're going to do it again this month. I just want to reiterate that what we're learning this month, in month 2 of your BOM, is how to cut in order of the alphabet. So you have your stuff organized by alphabet. And what you're also going to do is you're going to use up the scraps from month 1 as you bring them forward into month 2. Yes, some colors will be new and you make space for that. But then why not use the scraps first? We'll use the scraps, we'll use what comes every month, and we'll see what we end up left over with, always knowing we've got all this extra fabric in case we have a mistake when we start sewing things together. Now I'm thinking you're wondering, how long does this really take if Nina's putting this on fast forward speed times 8? Truly, looking at the timestamp on my video here, it took me about 2 hours to cut through all this fabric, talking the whole time. I'm going to go and skip all the way until we get to letter M, M-U. You know the cutting is going to remain the same all the way until we get there, so just keep on going. And now we're going to slow down the hyperdrive. we're going to cut MU, which has a substantial amount of cuts compared to some of the other colors we've previously looked at. That's what's next, MU. We have quite a few. So let's take a look at what we've got left on MU. That's last month. We only had the one. So we just have this little tiny piece right here, cove. But we have this nice big piece right here. So what we need to pay attention to when I look at this chart, look how big number 7 is. That's the one we have to watch out for. We want to make sure we don't run out of fabric for that. So I'm going to look and see how many pieces we should have here. B1D, B1E, B2C, B2E, B2F, B2G, B2I, B2I. Okay, those two cuts from one piece. 7 and 8 come from one piece. And then B2K. So we actually have eight pieces should be in this pile right here. Let's take a look at what we've got. We've got a B1E and it's a B2I. And sometimes I like to just, spread them out so I can see how big the pieces are, what they look like, so I can figure out what is going to come out of where on this fabric. There's B1 and a B2. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All of our pieces are here. The one that has 2 cuts is B2I. That's this one. Out of curiosity, how big is MU? This one and this one. Look how big this is. That's not going to fit here. This one is not going to fit. So we're going to save this for one of these smaller pieces, and we're going to go ahead and start cutting this big piece first. We're going to cut it right out of there. So the first thing we're going to do is take the pin out, because we have already cut one thing, the FI, and we're going to just put it out of the way. And we need MU to come from here. So I'm going to fold this over, and I'm going to fold this over, and I'm going to just hold it down with my hand, and I'm going to cut this part of the triangle right here, and then I'm going to cut this part of the triangle right here. There it is. That's this right here. And then the little black pen here, MU. I've cut that one. Number 7 here, I've cut that one. And I'm going to put this right on top of this one right here. Right here. We have this MU to cut, which comes right next to it. We literally can take it right here. Do you see how that fits right out of that triangle right there? And all I have to do is do this one straight line right here. All right, jumping back into hyperdrive here, we're going to move forward. I want you to pay attention though. As I cut a fabric, I first unpin the paper, our actual foundation paper, our pattern piece, from the stack of previous cuts. They're all stacked up on top of each other. The lowest or the first letter of the alphabet would be at the bottom of the stack. So if I cut something that started with A, it's at the bottom. If I cut something that started with a B, it'd be the next one. And I just continue to cut and stack on top of each other, and then put the pattern back on, pin it together, and then I mark everything off the map. I take the felt tip pen and I cross off what I've already cut, and I cross it off my list. And it's because I do this so that I can see if I feel like I'm missing something, or I'm out of order when I go to sew things and I'm wondering where something is. Did I really lose something, or did I forget to cut something? It just makes it a lot easier to make sure that I don't leave something behind. And so I just continue to have the same habit. Cut, stack. Remove the paper, cut the next one, stack it on top, stack it on top. And so if you end up with a piece that has like 10 pieces of fabric, they're literally pinned to their pattern that they belong, the segment they belong to, and they're in alphabetical order. And in this case, I've gone the extra step and taken either a very felt tip fine pen for marking fabric or a chalk marker, and I've put the color code in the margin of what is the sewing seam allowance on each of those pieces. So if the pin falls out, you can get it all put back together. This is the fast way to go through the whole alphabet of cutting your fabric. And now I've jumped ahead to the very last one. We've got YE. I just want to draw your attention to the piece when I pick it up right here. Look how much fabric is stacked underneath there. Do you see all those pieces? I'm going to carefully just unpin it. I'm going to keep them all in that order. Look how many pieces are in that one. We might want to sew that guy first, just so we don't get tired after all this cutting. And look at all of the cuttings that you have done. That's it right there, this whole pile. That's BOM month 2. Let's sew. We are now at the sewing station because we cut everything. It's all ready to go. Super excited because it is nothing but sit and sew at this point. So this is my whole pile of block of the month, part 2 here, this month, the second month. We're looking at the B2s and the B1s. Those are our where we're at with what blocks we were given. This is the meanest piece. It has 10 pieces of fabric in it. The next one in line has 8, and I just put them in that kind of order because I like to kind of play a little racing game with myself, and it just feels like I'm running downhill when I get to the last piece when I do it this way. There's nothing worse than sewing all of these and finding out that this is the last piece and you have to do this one, which takes a significant amount of time. So like, do yourself a favor, when the pile is this small, put them in order like this. We're going to start with this first piece, and here's why it was so important that you put everything in an alphabetical order. I'm going to show you how this can be an easier and faster process for you. So everything is pinned to this with the lowest, or the first letter of the alphabet was at the bottom, which was for us in this particular piece, looks like FI is probably what came first. So we're going to take this pin out. I'm not changing the order of these things. I'm just going to keep them in that order, and I'm putting the paper piece over here, and I'm flipping this over. I know this is our first letter of the alphabet, and I like to just lay them out. So these are FI, and there's 2 of them. They're here and here. Then we have the next one, and the next one, and the next one. This is all in alphabetical order right now. I know that they're in order, and they're still in order. There's 2 of those, and then there's 1 of those. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that little mini mosaic. Do you remember that from last month? I do the same thing, but I do it right here on my board before I sew it so that I can find all the right pieces. So I'm going to, this is FI, it goes here, and this is the other FI who's going to end up right here. So if this is the end, this is kind of, I only need to fit a few in between. I know those are FI. You can actually, I can see the little FI that I wrote on them, which is kind of nice in case I didn't have these colors memorized. So my next one here after FI looks like is going to be MU. This is the guy that fits up in this corner, and I just know he fits right there like that at the end, because this is FI. So we got to fit all these right through here like that. This one is OX, and OX is over here, right there, somewhat. This is TQ right here. And you know, if you were trying to double check it, we wrote those on there. There's TQ right here. This then becomes, looks like QC. Yeah, so this is FI, and QC is right on top of FI right here like this, right there. I'm going to move that one over a little bit more. These 2 guys here are the QLs. There's 2 of them. This is the one that goes right here. Just get it in the right shape, how it's going to get sewn on here. If you need to double check it, you can turn the light on this board, and you'll be able to tell that your piece is going to fit. And then, yep, QL goes right over here. We just have to fit RJ over here. That's the littler one right here. And we have one more RJ right here. And now all our pieces are like that little mini mosaic. They look just like this. And they're going to end up sewn together. So the first thing we need is we got to remember what to do on piece number 1. Piece number 1 always throws people for a loop. Let's just do a little bit of a reminder. Piece number 1 means glue stick. We need this one done right here. We have this one to do. There we go. Piece number 1 right there. I'm only putting that glue right there where piece number 1 is going to be. Piece number 1 is this guy right here. Now we're going to pay attention to the numbers. Before, when we cut everything, we paid attention to the alphabet code. Now it's the numbers. So we need this guy right here, because we've got our little mini mosaic in its right shape. This is piece number 1 right here. Right there. So we have it set and secure and ready to go onto this fabric. You can use whatever kind of folding tool that you like. I have this little piece of plastic right here to help me fold this over and prepare piece number 1 to piece number 2. I go back to my add a quarter because I want to cut this so that there's a 1/4 inch seam allowance and it's ready to go. So that is where piece number 2 is going to go right here. You can see it when I pull it on the board. Look at, that's where it's going to fit right there, and it's plenty big enough. Might be better. Yeah, right there. You can play with it a little bit and figure out which direction is the best. I think that's it right there. That's how we wanted it to be. So we're going to turn this upside down. I, again, don't use pins on my machine, as you know. So I'm going to glue this one together with my little seam glue here. Just like that. So that it's going to flip over and cover that piece. So we're going to set that with our hot iron, just like that. It's ready to be sewn. We're going to take it to the machine, and we are going to do nothing but sew today. We're going to get that whole stack done. We're going off to the races today. This is piece 1 to 2. I'm just trimming my threads. Come back to my pressing mat. Just open that piece back up. I, again, like to use my pressing pen because I like to have a nice, really flat seam right there. I'm not going to stretch it. I'm not going to iron. I'm just going to press it right down on top of that. And it is ready. Look at that. Piece 1 to 2. Piece 1 to 2. This is pattern side. This is finished quilt side. Pattern side. So we're working from pattern side. And now we've done 1 to 2. So now we've got to go this direction. And we're going to do piece number 3. So we're going to release a little bit of the stitching right here from the paper, just so that it will fold for us nicely. I have a habit of using my add a quarter ruler, but I have this new handy dandy little fold back ruler. So we're going to give this one a go. And we want to fold this paper back between 1 and 3. There it is. And then we're going to trim just like that. We're ready to add piece 3, which is now in our order of fabric right there, our little mini mosaic. That's where it's going to go. RJ is RJ right here. So we're just going to flip this over, and I'm going to add my seam glue right here. Just a couple of dots. I'm going to place it right on top of that so the raw edges match up. Set the seam there with the glue. Oh, a little bit more. There it is. And then bring it over to the look. See how great that glue is? Nothing's falling apart. I just love it. Come over here, and we are going to start off the pattern itself. We're going to come back onto the pattern, and we are going to keep going on that seam line, just like we did last month, all the way off. Snip my threads. Snip these longer ones. If you have a newer, fancier machine, you don't have to do all this thread snipping that I do, but I really love this machine, so it makes me happy. I will snip. And we're going to press this one open. Then we're going to use the seam starch there, my little starch pen. Press it down again. We're going to take a look at that. Look how good that looks. Such a nice flat seam there. It's great. And now we're going to go to piece number 4. So again, we're going to use our little foldy tool here. There it is. We have to release some of the stitches right here. We're not going to cut the stitches. We're just going to release the fabric from the stitches so that it will fold. What's going to happen now, because we're working our way on this pivot, this little corner piece is going to want to come off because we had to move it here when we cut the other piece. So this is where you have your handy dandy washi tape. And I'm just going to pull a tiny bit of washi tape off. So I don't want to lose my corner right there. It won't hurt you if you do, but I like to be able to keep it all together if I can. So I'm just going to put this here and keep that there. so it's not going to go anywhere. I can still see this line here that I need to fold back on right here. So I'm just going to fold back and keep it all together. Do you see how that worked? And you can actually leave, this guy is so thin, this green piece right here, this plastic is so thin, I can actually leave it right there in the fold when I place the add a quarter ruler and cut and trim right next to it. And then I can just take it all apart at the same time, just like that. I am now going to hit the turbo boost because 10 pieces on one segment is a lot. It will take you a while. So these are the things I want you to remember on all of the next pieces. With every new piece of fabric that you're going to add to this segment, the first thing you do is you trim the previous piece, that 1/4 inch. That's why you're using that add a quarter ruler or any ruler. You need that 1/4 inch for the next new edge of fabric in order to, number 2, line up that next piece of fabric so that you can, number 3, sew on the sew line. And it's completely up to you whether you choose to use the Acorn products, that glue that I like to use, or pins and clips, or just hold it with your fingers, your choice. Then it takes us to the last step. You're going to flip that piece over and you're going to do your pressing with your iron. And when I do my pressing, I sure like to use the Acorn pen where I can, because I really do like a nice flat seam. threads is our last piece. It's going to flip over and it's just perfectly fine in there. I'm going to set that seam real quick just to make it easier to fold. I'm going to fold that one down. We're going to add our starch to it. And we talked about this last month. I'm not going to trim this. You guys remember me doing that? I did not trim this last month. I left all of my segments with all of this extra paper and fabric on the ends. For me, when I go to attach this to whatever belongs here and put them together, it is so much easier when I have more to hold on to and I have these targeted seam points that I want to make sure I get. I want to connect this point to the other piece, and I want to make sure everything comes together and has just a beautiful, crisp look on the pattern on the quilt side. And for me, not trimming yet makes that possible. I will show you how to do that again when I get all of these done. So I'm going to leave you to it. Get your pile sewn, and then we'll come back together, and then we will start putting the pieces together. You have completed all of your segments for 2 blocks for this second month. We have block B1 and we have block B2, and we are looking at both of these blocks just like last month from the pattern side. Block B1 is a much easier block to piece together. Block B2 has got a lot of steps that might make you feel like things are going a little bit just not straight A through Z. So I'm going to let you do block B1 by yourself because I think you can handle it. And we're going to talk mostly about block B2. We're going to talk about it and then we'll end up sewing it. So let's look at this. B1 has only 4 steps. You see that? But B2 has 11 steps. And that's where it just seems awkward. So let's talk about how these go together. What I have done is I took a look at this picture and I put my pieces in a way that they're very close to where they're going to go together. So we're going to look at block B2 because it has a lot of steps and it's really easy to make a mistake and jump ahead and miss one of these steps. And we just don't want to do that. You want to follow these steps in order so that you don't end up having to take out a seam and put it back together again. It's easy to do if you have a Post-it note to kind of keep track of where you're at. So I'm just going to grab these little orange Post-it notes and we're going to look at this very first step right here. So now we're looking at just this column. We're going to keep all of our pieces right here on this pad, and we're not going to sew them right now. I'm just going to kind of piece them together with you, and then I'll go over how I sew them where you see where I place pins and put the seams together, because again, I haven't trimmed anything and I find it to be so much easier this way. So the very first step says B to C right here, B to C. That's B and that's C. So we are going to first work on just this seam right here. The next step, this becomes BC to D. So you have to find D. Then here's D. So then we're going to end up sewing this. And now we end up with this section is all put together. And now this is where you leave this one alone because now we're going to skip to EF because they want us to put E and F together. And that's these two right here. So we're going to end up sewing these two together. And after E and F get put together, now you're looking at BCD. This is piece BCD. Now gets put together with EF like that. So now we end up with one middle chunk together. And then we consider this B through F. We're going to add G, which is this one at the bottom here. When we go to do this one, this is the one that I think for those perfectionists, this is the one that has so many points that we want to make match up, that we want these intersections with. This intersection to match that intersection. We need this one to match that one, this one to that one, this one to that one, all the way down the line. And if they don't match, that's the perfectionist in you will look at it and go, oh gosh, these don't match. So that's where we want to really slow down when we add G and make sure everything lines up, and we end up adding G. After G, we leave that whole section all by itself because now you have to do H to I, which is these two right here, H to I, and now you have this middle section. And after H to I, you leave it alone and you go J and K, which is these two. And so see how this doesn't feel like it's A through Z. It's kind of over here and over here and over here, but there is a reason for it so that it comes together without you having to sew Y seams, because Y seams can be tricky and we want to avoid that. So this is HI is now going to get sewed together with JK. So we end up with this. And after that one, you go BG, which is what this is considered right here, B through G, gets sewn to this section right here. So all of these get put together like that. You see, there's a lot. Look how many little pieces are going to come together and make straight lines. I promise you they will. Then you add A to it. So we finally get to add the corner. It will all line up nice and straight. And the very last step is going to be taking L and putting it in this bottom corner. And I promise you, you will end up with a perfectly straight, well, very straight rectangle. It's going to be just exactly what the doctor ordered. I promise. So that's going to be B2. And I will take you through that on a little faster speed so that you can just watch, and we're going to put pins in and mark each little corner to make sure everything lines up the way that we want it. I hope you're feeling like you're going to get something accomplished right now. We are ready to start B2. B2 is the one that we just talked about a little while ago that had a lot of pieces. So you finished B1 and now you're ready for B2. And B2 is the one with a bunch of pieces that we're going to go through together just to reiterate and go over the method that I like to use with all the different pins and glues and super fun things. So let's make sure our iron is hot and ready to go. Let's take a look at our guide. This is B through F, and we're going to add G. That's a big one. This is the one we talked about way in the beginning when I was cutting fabrics. Do you remember that? This is where we now need to match all of these really cool points. And this one, we can't see as much because we have all these open seams. So I want this one to be on the bottom, and then this way, hopefully I can drive really good and straight across here. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to make sure I get these in the exact spots that I want them in so that when I'm on the other side, there is no mistake. I am clearly getting the seam where I want that seam to be. Right there. Look how many points of contact we have to get nice and straight here. This one, I want to find it. It's right there. Okay. And the last one is going to be right there. Take my bigger pin. Make a couple of guide holes. I can see the thread right there on this one. Even though the tape's there, I can still see where I want that to match up. Right here. Right here. Right here. And the last one right here. So we're going to turn this one over and put this one on top. So we're going to just put it in the way I can see it. There's a spot right there for a needle right there. And this one is going to match up right there in that intersection. And the next one here, there's a spot for it right there. This one has to go right in here. You see how I have all this to hold on to do this? If I had trimmed these, I would have a much harder time doing this. I know it's possible, and I know some people like that method, but I just find this to be, I like having something to hold on to. There it goes. And then trimming afterwards. I can't grow fabric. If I make a mistake, it just gives me a little bit of extra forgiveness because I can take it out, sew it again if I have to. This looks good. That looks good. There it is. That looks good on both sides. Then this one, I'm going to shoot for between here and here. That looks good. And that's going to come out right there. That looks good. And I'm going to grab this one, a little sideways just to keep that in there. And I think this one's kind of like a porcupine, but we're ready to rock and roll. So you have to be really cautious with this one because I have more pins in here, I think, than I have fabric. But none of them are metal on the sewing. They're all just the beads, the plastic heads, are what touches my table. Backing up that first big intersection right here, but I've been holding it. I've got some pressure, making sure I stay on that sewing line. Something to think about every time you stop sewing on a featherweight. There's no fancy button that says stop sewing with the needle down. On like my fancier machine, I can select it so that the needle stops in the down position. But on this machine, you get what you get. It's like a toss-up. Sometimes needles up, sometimes needles down. So I always have to hold on to my fabric, my piece, until I can adjust that and see. So like right now, the needle's up, and I'm going to just make it go into the down position before I let go. That way it doesn't move on me. I learned this the hard way when I was binding a quilt for the first time with one of these machines, and my needle kept stopping in an up position, and every time I would adjust my hands. So that is the worst binding job ever. The seam is like a crooked snake. It's hilarious, but I love it anyway. Needle down. Perfect. That one turned out good. See, I told you it's like a toss-up. Roll the dice. Needle up, needle down. Ooh, needle down. We're winning this fight. Backing that one up. Now we're going to back this one up. I'm holding it together. I don't want to lose this piece all the way off. Looks really good on the front, and it looks really good on the back even. So all of those crazy points that I said we have to watch out for. Look at that. They look really good. I mean, if you really want to be a bugger, right here, I probably could put one more stitch in there so that this color right here, when I do this, I want to open this up for you. Okay, if you're going to be really nitpicky, and I'm going to be really nitpicky, you're going to zoom in on this. Do you see this color? This color right here is beyond the end of the blue. I'm talking like 1 millimeter and in the pink. And so really, if that's really going to bother you, here's how you fix that. It's this intersection right here, and I'm going to take it with my fingernail right there, and I'm just going to pinch a little bit tighter. So if I throw one more stitch in there, a little bit more onto the piece as opposed to this side of the seam, it means I just need one more stitch that direction, and it you won't see that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back under the needle, and I'm going to go about 5 stitches on this side. So I'm going to sew on that line, and as I get close to the intersection, I'm just going to take it 1 millimeter into the piece, just a little bit more. I'm going to grab a little bit wider of a seam. So there's my 5 stitches, and I'm now at that intersection. That was that one little piece, and I'm going to lock that. There we go. And then my snips. I lost my snips. There they are. I'm always losing my snips. I have like 3 of these. I love these things. All right. So again, now we just need to clean it up a little bit because there'll be extra long threads right in the middle of the piece, and I don't want that. But we have now adjusted a seam. That's something new today. You adjusted a seam. So watch this. Now, the one we were looking at was right here. Now, look how much better that is. See how this turquoise doesn't go all the way into the pink? It's lining up really good now. So I like that. So we're going to get the other ruler here. I should use the longer one. Have a longer one ready. This is my 12-inch one. There we go. And it's just, this is a longer piece of fabric here. So we're just going to line that one up a little bit here. And now we'll cut all through this. Oh, I'm going to need to cut. It's time to change the blade. And oh, it actually did pretty good, didn't it? Okay, now here we're going to have a bunch of little pieces to take out. We don't want to leave any of this behind that's on the seam. All this dark gray. There's a lot of dark gray. So we're going to get all these little pieces. Make sure it's not stuck in the middle of our seam. Look at that. And this piece might be a little bit sticky because we had that washi tape, but look, it came out just fine. Now we're going to get it from this side. Making piles of messes over here. This one, we're going to, see how I have to open that pink up a little bit right here? Because I want to get this piece all the way good and truly out of this little corner. Perfect. Didn't leave anything behind. It's kind of like leaving a splinter inside, right? You don't want to leave a splinter inside. So you look at that. So this piece right here was inside that point right there. And I didn't lose this point. So I don't have to go in there with tweezers. It would be more of a problem, especially if that was like white. And the same thing happened here. See how that point was right up in there? See that? Came out just fine, so I don't need tweezers to go get that. So like I said, I can pretty much pull out these papers with just my fingers and not having to get any tweezers out. Doesn't mean it never happens, but I've gotten pretty good at just pulling them out with my fingers. Look at that. This looks so good. It looks so good. Look at that. So this is the fabric side, the quilt side, and it just looks so good. I'm going to make a little bit of a guide hole right there, and a little bit of a guide right there. You can do this with any pin. This is a long armor's pin. It's just making a small hole. If you were having me quilt your top, I would put a whole bunch of these in your quilt to get it onto the frame for my long arm. This is not going to hurt this fabric at all. One. When I use these darker colors, this is when you use these darker colors, that is when, there, I can see the hole. I can see the light coming through. I love having a light board to do that. And I can see where that was supposed to go. And we're going to do J and K together, which are these two in the corner here, this one and this one. So it does feel like a bunch of jumping around. And this side is rather flat, but when I see this intersection, I know this is a bump right here. So I want to drive over that. That means I want this to be on the bottom. So I'm going to put the pin here, and the pin here, and the pin here, and uno mas right. Stronger. There we go. That one. And this one's already ready for it. And this one right here. So we have a bit of a bump there and we have a bump here. It's going to be a bit of a toss-up. This one I'm going to be able to control more because it's at the very beginning or at the very end, and I'll be able to kind of maneuver. And this one's in the middle. So I think that I want this one on the bottom and this one on the top. Let's add a little bit of that tape right here. We don't want to lose this. We need this. We need this when we go to the, let me show you. We need this corner. When we go and add it to this piece, we want to be able to see this line right here. So we're just going to tape that back on. And we're going to iron this right here. That one looks great, but this one, this blue, it just needs that pinch test. Remember that pinch test I showed you before? You go like that. So we're going to, I can see it right here. We're going to come back to the needle and we're going to be about 8 stitches from that seam intersection right there. And I'm just going to stay on the line. And now I'm going to make sure I don't miss that intersection there. And you'll see it's going to be better this time. Where was it? Right here. There. See that? All better. Nothing's trapped in that corner. And we do have some paper. This is where, all right, so this seam and this seam, they folded together. And there's paper in here. So this, we want to get out of here. It's right in here. Can you see that? I'm going to get it with my fingers right here. There. I want to get that little piece out. We don't want that to be in there when we go to finish this quilt. And now piece. Now I know you're going, what? It's not even straight. That's because we haven't trimmed it. So if you look at this side, you can see that it's straight. It's fine. It's beautiful. So we're going to go on to the very last part, 2 parts. We're going to connect this to B1, which you previously made. Here are our month 2 blocks, B1 and B2. This is B2, this is B1. We are looking at the quilt side. So again, when we go to put these together, this is where you don't want to do this. You don't want to be confused and go, okay, pattern side. Well, wait, B2, B2. No, this is pattern side, this is quilt side. So now we're going to adjust this so that we're looking at the pattern side, pattern side. So B2 and B1 go in this direction. That's the way you want to look at this. And we are going to line up this seam just like we did with the pieces right here. And take out our extra pins. We're not going to cut anything yet, because if we cut it now, and there's a mistake when I open this up, then we have less to work with to fix it. So we're going to look first at this line, which is, look at how perfect that is. It's exactly where we want it, and it's lined up really good on this side as well. So I'm feeling confident. Look at that, and it looked great. So let's get that trimmed and pressed. Super cool. Wanted to show you something. This was month 1, A1, A2, and this is month 2, B1, B2. In a traditional quilt, you would finish all of your blocks, and if this is row A, you literally would sew all of row A. So if you had 8 blocks in a row, you'd have one long row with 8 blocks connected, and then you would have a B row with 8 blocks connected, and C and D and E, however tall the quilt or however long the quilt would be. But in this legit kit, if you do 8 blocks in a row like this, look how many things you're trying to connect, and it's so easy to get off a little, and then off a little, and then a little, and a little, and the next thing you know, nothing lines up. On a legit kit, we make pairs. And after we make pairs, we're going to make a quad. So there's going to be, these 4 are going to be done and ready. And we're going to put them on our design wall or on a table or somewhere, keep it nice and flat. And we're going to move on next month to the next segment. And then we're not going to put these together. We'll put those together, and we'll end up with more quads. And at the end, we'll end up putting the quads together till they become, I don't know how you say it, octogenarians. There'll be 8s. So we'll go from singles to doubles to quads to our octogenarians, and that's how we're going to build out this quilt. So in today, now that you've finished B1 and B2, we can connect B1 and B2 to A1 and A2 because they go together right here. And again, right now we're looking at the quilt side, not the pattern side. When we go to put them together, we want to look at the pattern side, because we want to make sure we have B2 to B2, A2, B2 to A2, and B1 to A1. And you don't want to accidentally have B on top. You want to make sure you had it the right way. So I looked at it first from the quilt side, and then flipped everything. And I know that this is the row that I want to sew right here together. And I can trim this after I sew it. I'm going to pin everything together. I'm going to sew it. I'm going to look at it first. I'm going to put my eyeballs on every seam, every connection before I trim, in case I need to fix anything. And then after I have made sure it is as good as I'm going to be able to do it, then I will trim this right here, and I will press it open and flat, and I'm going to put it on my design wall, and I'm going to show you. And here you have it. Month 1 and month 2 all sewn together. And I want to tell you a little bit about what I like to call my secret weapon. My secret weapon are these permanent fabric pens. Look how many colors already are just in these 4 squares. We could be changing thread forever to try to match up every single seam. They're not all going to be perfect. And when you're going from green to this light green, how do you decide what color thread to use? So my choice is to pick a very neutral thread, either a beigey, champagne-y thread, or a gray, like a silvery gray, depending on what the hue is, like what's the generic theme of the quilt that you're doing. And in this particular case, I went with a gray because there were so many blues. But there are just a couple places that it bothers me that I can see my stitching. It bothers me that I can see my stitching in this deep, deep purple right here. I can see just a few threads right here. It drives me nuts, and it's driving me nuts just looking at this right here and right here. And so what I do, and I cannot do this if I'm tired. I have to be of good, energetic mind when this happens. And then I have to I test my colors before I ever even think about putting it on fabric. And I never use this big fat chisel that these particular pens, and I know there's some skinnier ones, but I like this little teeny weeny point right here, and I'll check that purple. And I like this purple. I don't want it to be, it can't be darker than this fabric. It has to be lighter than the fabric, but darker than the thread. And I'm going to very carefully pinch this seam open so I can see those threads even more. And I don't get this on the fabric. And I anchor my pinky with my finger here. And I'm slowly going to just get this gray thread a little bit purple. It's not going to make it disappear altogether. I'm not getting the ink on the fabric. If I were tired, I would get sloppy and then I'd be really upset. But now when I look at it, I don't see that crazy, really bright purple, white thread in the middle of the purple. Look how beautiful this is. I'm like so excited. All right, he can come here too. Look how exciting this is. Legit did such a good job of doing their interpretation of A Starry Night. And, this Lego one just makes me giggle. He's even got a beard, but he's got a little paintbrush. Maybe he can help me with that. That's month number 2 and 1 and 2. Look at that. You survived. And, well, maybe you had a date with the seam ripper. I'm super excited for you, though, but I need to warn you, don't get too comfortable. Next month, it's coming in with a little extra personality. Nothing scary, but let's just say it's enough to keep things interesting. Your quilt is about to start showing off. We'll see you next month.